All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Immigration 101 session. Thank you so much for being here. I know it's early for those of you who are in Canada, and it seems like there's a lot of you already here in Canada. So we're grateful that you're here with us. This is really important information for you to know in terms of your rights and your responsibility as a study permit holder and as an international student in Canada. My name is Stefania, and I'm one of the international student advisors. We have Rebecca here, and I'm going to ask Rebecca to help me with this session. So jump in at any time, Rebecca, if you want to add anything, if I missed anything.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you. And actually, Rebecca, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Rebecca Pluis. I'm the International Student Advisor at the Fleming College Frost campus in Lindsay. So I'm located just right inside the registrar's office. So please come visit me if you're on campus. I would love to meet you.
Excellent. Thank you, Rebecca. And Christina and myself are located at the Sutherland campus. However, for now, we are supporting all students from all campuses as well. So all three of us are able to support any of you here right now. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started on the presentation. So what I'd like to do is we'll go over the presentation. And then if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to attempt to leave some time for questions at the end. And please put the questions in the chat once so that we can go through them as fast as possible. So let me share my screen. And can you just give me a hands up if you can see it?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Okay, then let's get started. Okay, and before we get started on any presentation, we usually do our land acknowledgement. So I'm gonna read this message here. Fleming College respectfully acknowledges that we're situated on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Anishinaabe. Oral history teaches us that the Mississauga shared the land with the Ottawa and Huron nations before colonial contact. Mississauga are the traditional people of the North Shore of Lake Ontario and its tributaries. This has been Mississauga territory since time immemorial. We're grateful for the opportunity to work, live, and learn here, and the relationships that Fleming continues to build and works to maintain in a respectful and reciprocal way. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples, both in shaping and strengthening this community and country as a whole. This recognition is connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our Fleming community. Fleming College is committed to fortifying relationships with Indigenous communities while embedding intellectual and cultural knowledge into curriculum, activities, and systems. Perfect. All right, let's get right into our immigration information. So we want you to know who your support system here in Canada is in terms of immigration questions. If you are in a maybe difficult immigration situation, we are here to help you. So the three of us, Rebecca, Christina, and myself, we are international student advisors. We are trained in terms of immigration, so we had to go through some rigorous training and exams to be registered as immigration advisors. So we are Christina and I are RICIAs, and Rebecca is an RCIC. You also have, if you're in a more complicated situation, perhaps you may want to consult a lawyer, and sometimes we may refer you to a lawyer in certain situations, or we may recommend that you talk to an immigration lawyer. You also have the opportunity to talk to the New Canadian Center, and you will get to know the New Canadian Center folks during orientation. They will be on campus. So we encourage you to reach out to them because they can provide some information about immigration as well. If you are looking for an immigration consultant, And just by the way, immigration consultants are the only ones, immigration consultants and lawyers are the only ones that can represent you. So as RISIAs, we are not legally allowed to represent you or to submit applications on your behalf. So we can advise you, but we cannot actually represent you or submit applications on your behalf. So if you need an immigration consultant, you're looking for one and you don't know anybody, you can find one on the website for the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants. Just a note that the information that we are sharing today is as of what we know today. Any up-to-date information is always, you're always best to consult the IRCC website. So the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada website for up-to-date information. Normally applications that are made within Canada should be done online. So that is the direction that we have from IRCC, that is preferred. There are some instances where you can do a paper application, but so there's only specific instances where you can do that. And in urgent cases, you may go to the border. However, we always want you to be careful when going to the border because there are risks involved with that. So please do always speak with one of us or an immigration lawyer or an immigration consultant before you go to the border, so you know what your risks are and you know exactly what to bring with you. We would only ever recommend that in a last kind of resort, as a last resort. When a lot of you are already in Canada, from what I could see in the chat, and so when you arrived, you probably had a few words with a Customs Border Officer. So they are part of the Canadian Border Services Agency, CBSA for short. And their job is to make sure that our borders are safe, basically. So they make sure that they don't let anybody in that may be a risk to Canada, and also make sure that they don't bring any goods in that are not allowed. So it is their job to ask you questions at the border. And so you just have to answer them truthfully. One thing to know is that CBSA officers are not immigration officers. So they are not, their job is not to review an application and to make a decision on your application. It basically, once IRCC has made a decision on your application, their job is then to issue your documents at the border. Okay. That's important to know, and I'll explain a little bit later why that's so important. Okay, when you arrive in Canada, you usually bring your port of entry letter of introduction, letter of introduction also, and your study permit is then hopefully issued at the borders. And the border, when I say the border, I mean the airport that you're arriving in. The study permit is a status document, so it is the document that defines the status that you have in Canada. So if you have a study permit, you are a study permit holder, you're an international student, and you cannot study in Canada without one, except if you're in an English program that's less than 6 months. So any program that's over 6 months requires a study permit. As I said, it's issued at the port of entry, so at the airport, once the Customs Border Officer is satisfied that you meet the requirements to get a study permit. This document does not guarantee entry into Canada, so in order to enter or to travel to Canada, you need either a visa, which is also called the temporary resident visa, or an electronic travel authorization if you're from a country that does not require a visa. Usually the expiry date of the study permit is longer than your studies. Usually, the normal thing to do for for the CBSA officer is to issue a study permit that is 90 days, so 3 months beyond your studies. Now, there are exceptions to this. So, for example, sometimes if you've deferred your studies, so you didn't arrive as planned, so you applied, let's say, to come in May, but now you didn't get your study permit on time, and then you deferred your intake. Sometimes it's possible that your study permit is not issued for the entire duration of your studies, because what the officer has in the system may not match your actual duration of study. So if that happens, please reach out to us. We can give you information about extending your study permit. It really is important not to lose the study permit or any document that you get at the border. It's really important that you, as soon as you get it, take a copy or take a picture of it so that you have it on your phone at least, or maybe a physical copy somewhere. We sometimes see students who lose their documents and they have no record of it, no copy of it at all, and that makes things a little bit difficult. It may also, if you lose the document, you may also not be able to study because you do need that document. So make a copy of it today, take a picture of it. Right now, if you have it in front of you, might as well. Okay, this is a sample of the study permit. This is what the study permit will likely look like. So what we want you to do is, before you leave the airport, before you leave to come, to your campus community or wherever you're going, have a look at it. Take a couple of minutes. Make sure that your personal details are right. So your name, your date of birth, all that information that's at the top under client information, make sure that that's correct. Check to make sure that the remarks are on here or conditions are on here for you to be able to work. So number 3, under the conditions, we'll say may accept employment on or off campus if meeting eligibility criteria as per R186F, B, or W. Must cease working if no longer meeting these criteria. So if that sentence or those couple of sentences are not there, you're not going to be able to work. Chris, did you have a question?
Yes, not a question, just a reminder for students that it has been happening a lot lately, and I'm not sure why. The first name of students is coming into the surname and vice versa, right? So make sure that it's in the right field as well. Your surname is in the surname field and your first name on your first name. Sometimes it happens because your passport is wrong, because they base the information on the passport. But if your passport is correct and the document is wrong, you may have problems issuing your SIN number. So make sure that your name is in the correct place. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really important. We see errors all the time. It really happens quite often. So yeah, our recommendation would be just take a couple of minutes to review these details. There could also be either here on the study permit or on your co-op work permit restrictions in terms of where you can work. So for example, it could say that you're not authorized to work in childcare or in healthcare or in health services, I think sometimes it says. That usually is because you may not have a valid immigration medical exam at the time of your entry. If that happens, and if it could potentially affect your studies or your placement, for example, it's really important to reach out to us as soon as possible so that we can help you fix that. Okay. But if you see it there and you don't understand these things, you can flag it with the officer. So don't be afraid to take a couple of minutes before you leave the airport. Okay, as mentioned, reach out to us if your documents include restrictions, remarks that you don't understand, or if you're not sure about something that is listed on your documents so that we can help you understand those things and maybe figure out whether we need to take action and revise them or not. As mentioned, if your program has a mandatory placement, a co-op or an internship, and you did not get a co-op work permit on arrival, that could be because you may have forgotten to indicate that you also needed a co-op work permit when you applied for your study permit. So if it's not in the system, usually an officer cannot issue you a co-op work permit. So if that requirement was not indicated from the start when you applied for your study permit, sometimes they will tell you it's not possible to give you the co-op work permit at the airport. You can still ask and get that explanation from the officer. But if that happens, please reach out to us as soon as possible, especially if you're in the nursing program or, for example, the PSW program. They have semester 1 placements. So you need to take action really quickly. It takes a few months. It can take about 3 months right now, 3 to 4 months maybe, to get a co-op work permit. So if you don't get it at the airport and you're in a program like that has early placement requirements, you need to take action quickly. So come and see us. Okay, so when you get your decision on your study permit, you will be asked to submit your passport to the embassy or the visa office, and then when it is returned to you with the sticker in your passport, if you require a visa, that's your visa. You will also get a letter of introduction, or it's also called a port of entry letter of introduction. You need to bring that document with you along with all the other documents that are needed when you travel. And then your study permit is actually issued at the port of entry, so at the airport. So when you get the port of entry letter, it doesn't guarantee a study permit. So the Customs Border Officer ultimately makes the decision on whether you get a study permit or not, and that's who will issue the study permit at the port of entry. Just another little bit of information about your TRV, so your temporary resident visa. That is the sticker in your passport. So if you are from a country that requires a visa, you will need that in your passport in order to travel to Canada. This is a travel document. As I mentioned earlier, the study permit is what gives you status in Canada, whereas the temporary resident visa is a travel document. So it is necessary for you to have that to enter Canada. And then if you ever have to extend your study permit, or when you apply for your work permit after your studies, you will have to apply for another temporary resident visa at that time if you will be traveling, if you'll be leaving Canada and wanting to re-enter Canada. So not all countries require the TRV. So if you're from a country that's visa exempt, you just need an ETA, an electronic travel authorization, and information about the electronic travel authorization is put on the letter of introduction once a decision is made on your study permit application. Usually this document is issued for the same duration as your study permit. But as I said earlier, it can be extended when you extend your study permit as well. So this is what your TRV looks like. A lot of you are already in Canada, so you already have that. As you can see, it will tell you how many entries you have. So hopefully it says that it is a multiple entry, and that will allow you to come in and out of Canada for the duration of the visa. It will include your passport number down here. There's an expiry date, so an issue date and an expiry date. It will tell you what status you have, and it will have the UCI number. So that's your unique client identifier for Immigration Canada. Okay, your responsibility as a student. There are quite a few responsibilities. So you always have to stay enrolled at a designated learning institution, such as Fleming College. You always need to make progress towards finishing your study program. Doesn't mean that you can't fail courses, but you have to show that you are a genuine student, that you are genuinely wanting to finish a program. You have to respect the conditions that are listed in your study permit. So, for example, if it says that you have to cease working when you no longer meet the criteria, that means that if you don't meet the criteria to work, you have to stop. And so if you continue to work when you're not allowed to, that is a violation of your study permit conditions. You have to stop studying and working if you no longer meet the requirements, as I said, and on the expiry date of the study permit, unless you have extended your study permit before it expires. All right, we'll talk about the extensions in a minute. You also have to leave Canada. It will also say on a study permit that you have to leave Canada on the expiry date of your study permit. We would recommend that you put a reminder in your phone, maybe, to extend your study permit about 3 months before it expires. Okay, maybe have a look at it right now. If you're already in Canada, you have your study permit, check it and put a reminder in your phone. It is your responsibility to keep the study permit valid at all times. So that reminder will help you if you need to extend your study permit. And then you can reach out to us if you have questions about that, and we can help you with that. Chris.
Yes, I just would like to remind everybody that something that was said yesterday in the student panel, you are in Canada to study. That's your main goal. And if you are not studying, that path that the dreams you're thinking of that you're going to have in Canada may not happen because of that, right? So your main goal is studying. If some students, they come to Canada, they think, you know what, I'm here, I can work, I'm going to work and work as much as I can to make money, etc. Just hear me, because if you're not studying and passing your courses, what is going to happen is you're going to end up as part-time, or you're going to end up skipping a semester. And if you skip a semester, during that semester, you're part-time or you're not studying, you cannot work. Okay, so it's important to be on top of your game, to be studying, to be passing your courses. Concentrate on that, because with that, you'll be able to work, you'll be able to continue your studies and working, right? And your dream as well of being in Canada and maybe in the future become a citizen in Canada, because most people would like to have that. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. Thank you, Stefania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is really important. We'll get into some of the implications or some of the things that can happen if you don't focus on your studies. If your focus is more on other things, there are immigration implications. So it's really, really important that your first priority is to study here. Okay. If you do need to extend your study permit, you will need some documentation from the college, as well as your own documentation. What we would recommend is that you either obtain an offer letter for maybe a new program. So if that's your reason to extend your study permit, you will need an offer letter for the next program that you're taking. Or if, let's say, you fail courses or there's other reasons for you to extend your study permit, you will need a letter of support from the records department. You will also need to provide or to submit your proof of funds again. And as of January 1st, as you all know, probably the proof of funds or the living costs that IRCC stipulates for a 1-year extension or 1-year study permit is $20,635. So that's the amount of living costs that IRCC deems as being kind of a good average for students to be in Canada for a year. You need to apply online through your IRCC account. If you don't have access to your account, or if you don't have your login information anymore, you can either reset that or you can create a new account. We have information as well as a video tutorial on our study permit extension page. So we'll put that link in the chat box so that you can have a look at it at some point. And if you don't look at it right now, you can reach out to us once you are in that situation where you have to extend your study permit. Again, a reminder to put a reminder in your phone or wherever it can trigger you to think about your study permit extension about 90 days before your study permit expires. So as we kind of started hinting to you, if you switch programs, if you become sick, if you have financial problems, if you start failing courses, maybe because you are working too much or because you're not familiar with the academic integrity policies, that can all cause you to change your study plan. So it could mean that you have to now add another semester, maybe 2 semesters, another year to your studies, because you will have to repeat those courses. And just as Chris mentioned, part-time studies or gaps in studies, meaning a semester where you can't study, may make you ineligible for your post-graduation work permit. So if your goal is to get a post-graduation work permit, it's really important to stay focused on your studies and do the best you can to pass all your courses. It's understood that sometimes things happen, and obviously students fail courses sometimes. We would like to remind you to reach out to us before things get out of control. So if you're in a situation where you're now, you failed a course and that course is a prerequisite for maybe 3 or 4 courses in your next semester, that means you may not be able to progress to those courses. And that means that you may become a part-time student. If that happens, you're first of all not allowed to study, to work, sorry, you're not allowed to work. And it may have impacts on your eligibility for a PGWP, a post-graduation work permit. So come see us if that happens, so that we can maybe help you figure out ways to maybe avoid that if that's possible, but sometimes that's not possible. But at least we can give you some information as to what to do next. Okay, let's talk a little bit about working here in Canada. So as an international student at a public post-secondary school, such as Fleming College, you can work on campus if you have a valid study permit that says that you can work on or off campus. Like I showed you earlier, it has to say that you can work on or off campus. In that case, there is no limit to the hours that you can work on campus. So if you have an on-campus job, there's no limit to those hours. Again, really important to focus on your studies first, see how it goes, how your schedule works for you in terms of your studies. And then if you can fit some work in, then maybe add the work, okay? Working off campus. So let's talk a little bit about having a job off campus. In order to be allowed to do that, you have to have a valid study permit. You must be a full-time student. So as a part-time student, as mentioned earlier, you're not allowed to work unless you're only part-time in the final semester. So if you have maintained full-time status, but then you have one last semester in which you are part-time, that's okay. But if you're part-time before the final semester, then you are not allowed to work. You must have started studying in Canada. So I think Chris has already talked about this in previous sessions. You cannot work until your first day of classes, which is for most of you, I think, if you're starting in May, May 6th is the first day of classes. That's when you officially can start working if you have a job. You have to be in a program that leads to a degree, a diploma or certificate, and is at least 6 months long. So if you're in an English program, which is a preparatory program, that does not allow you to work off campus. You have to have a social insurance number, and I think hopefully you attended the session yesterday about how to apply for a social insurance number. And your study permit must list the condition to work. So one of those sentences must be on your study permit in order for you to be allowed to work. So the hours, let's talk a little bit about the hours that you can work while your classes are on. So during the semester, you can work up to 20 hours if you meet the criteria that I talked about earlier. So you are a full-time student and you have a study permit that is valid and that has those work conditions on, you can work up to 20 hours a week during an academic term. You can work full-time during regularly scheduled breaks. So those are breaks that everybody in your cohort has. So if you start a program in May, you may not have an entire semester off, but there will always be times between semesters. There's sometimes a couple of weeks between semesters where you can work full-time. Independent Learning Week, or also called Reading Week, is usually in week 8 of your semester. Is a week where you don't have any classes. That is considered a regularly scheduled break, and you can work full-time during that break. If you exceed the hours that you are allowed to work, that is a violation of your study permit condition. And it can have negative impacts on any future immigration applications. So, so it's really, really important that you, that you obey the rules and that you don't work too much, and also that you prioritize your studies. As Chris mentioned earlier, we will get into a couple of scenarios at the end of this presentation. Okay, social insurance number. You already, I think, hopefully attended the session yesterday. You can apply online, by mail, or in person, either on campus or at a Service Canada location. Just a reminder that if you're not here in Canada yet, and if you're arriving, there are kiosks by Service Canada at the airport. If you have a shuttle booked, please don't go to one of those kiosks and make your shuttle driver wait. You may miss your shuttle at that point. You will have lots of opportunities to apply for a social insurance number once you are at your campus location or once you have left the airport. So just another reminder about that. Okay, let's dive into a little bit more into regularly scheduled breaks. When you go on the Fleming College website, there is an academic schedule. When you go under, I think, under the topic admissions, that lists the times that the semesters start, when there's holidays or independent learning weeks or reading week. You can check that on our website. Just a reminder that not all programs have a scheduled semester break. So like a summer break, for example, you are coming in the summer, you're arriving in the summer, so you will not have that summer break that some students may have if they start in September. So if you're not sure about whether there is a break in your program, you can check with your program coordinator. They will be able to tell you about that. If you take a break when there is no scheduled break as part of your program, that can have impacts on your PGWP eligibility. So that can be considered an unapproved leave. And it may make you ineligible for the PGWP, for the post-graduation work permit. You may only work full-time during a regularly scheduled break if you are a full-time student before and after the break. Okay, so that full-time status is really important as an international student for work and for your PGWP eligibility. As mentioned, if you become a part-time student, you can only work if it's your final semester and you've maintained full-time status up until that final semester where you're part-time. Okay. Co-op work permit. So if you are in a program that has a mandatory field placement, clinical placement, there's different terms for that work term, internship, co-op, you must have a co-op work permit for to allow you to work the hours that you need for your placement. Usually this document is issued at the airport if you indicated the requirement of this when you applied for your study permit. So the co-op work permit is not the document that allows you to work on or off campus and have that part-time job besides school. The co-op work permit is only for the mandatory placement hours that you have for your program, and the placement has to be approved by the school. Usually the employer that's listed on the co-op work permit is Fleming. And it will have a remark at the bottom that identifies the document as a co-op work permit. So it states that the co-op work permit is a work permit that allows you to work the essential hours for your placement. If you did not get a co-op work permit, especially if you have early placement components in your program, please reach out to us as soon as possible so that we can provide you information on how to apply for one here. It currently takes between 3 and 4 months to get a co-op work permit. So if you have early placement components, reach out to us ASAP, meaning as soon as possible. Chris.
I was going to say that some students, they had applied, for example, for another institution, another DLI, right? So if you apply for a university or college and it's not Fleming College, they will give you the co-op if there is a co-op, but they will put the name of the employer as being the university that you applied first, right? And what happens is you need the co-op with the name of Fleming College. Okay, the one that you received or that you probably received for another university is not going to be valid for Fleming. So you're going to need to apply for another one.
Yeah, that's really important. Thank you for adding that. I also want to talk a little bit about the co-op work permit. So it's really important that you check your co-op work permit and that you read it. Sometimes we see students getting a co-op work permit that says, or also a study permit that says not authorized to work in childcare, primary, secondary school teaching, health services, field occupations. If your co-op work permit says that, and if your placement will be in one of those occupations, in one of those sectors, if you're going to be working with elderly people as well, for example, sick people, children, anybody that's vulnerable, you will not be able to go on placement with those restrictions. So you need to request new documents without those restrictions. And if that's the case, please reach out to us as soon as possible. The process does take some time. It's basically you're applying for a new co-op work permit, so it may take 3 to 4 months for you to get it. So if let's say you are in nursing, in the nursing program, or you're in the PSW program, you need to have this fixed as soon as possible. So reach out to us if that's the case. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the post-graduation work permit eligibility. So this is maybe a little bit small, but these are the conditions that you need to meet in order to apply for a post-graduation work permit once you finish your program. It's it's ideal for you to have your status valid at the time of your application. And ideally, it's best to apply while your study permit is still valid. And that's why it's important to have the extra 3 months on your study permit when you so that you have time to apply for the post-graduation work permit. If that's not the case, so let's say you are supposed to be finishing your program on December, I don't know when the fall semester ends, but maybe December 15th, and your study permit expires on December 30th or 31st, that will likely not give you enough time to gather the documents that you need to apply for post-graduation work permit. We would recommend that you apply for an extension in that case. Okay. You have to have completed a program in order to be eligible to apply for the post-graduation work permit. It has to be a program at a DLI, so a designated learning institution such as Fleming College. It has to be at least 8 months in length, and it must have led to a degree, a diploma, or certificate. You have to have maintained full-time status in each semester, except for the final semester where you can be a part-time student, and you must have graduated from a DLI such as Fleming. When are you not eligible for a PGWP? So I kind of highlighted there's a few reasons not to be eligible for PGWP, but the most common that we see is that you have not maintained full-time status, and that you had gaps in studies that are maybe unexplained. Those are the major reasons we see rejections for the PGWP. So it is really important to keep that full-time status at all times and not take breaks when you're not allowed to take breaks, when they're not regular breaks, I guess. Okay, so to kind of conclude this presentation, because we do want to go into some questions. We want to show you a couple of scenarios. And so the first scenario is the one that we all want you to be in. It's an ideal scenario. It's an ideal situation to be in. The second one will show you what issues can, what problems can happen if you don't prioritize your studies, or for example, if you don't attend orientation that allows you to get the information you need to be a successful student. So let's dive into the first scenario. It's the scenario of Supriya, and we just randomly chose a name. Supriya is in the Biotechnology Advanced program, which is a 5-semester program. She has attended orientation, all the sessions, including the Immigration 101 session and the Academic Integrity session, which is right after this. And so she knows what it means to be a successful student here in Canada. She focuses on her studies. So let's see what happens to her. So she has 7 courses in the first semester. So she's a full-time student. She has another 7 courses in the winter 2020 semester. She's still a full-time student. Then she has a summer break because she started in the fall and her program allows for a summer break. She has a summer break the following summer. Then in fall 2020, she is a full-time student again with 7 courses. Again, 7 courses in winter 2021. Then she has another summer break. And in fall 2021, she completes her program. So she's a full-time student. Her study permit is still valid, a little beyond her studies. So she graduates in winter 2022 is when she receives the official notification that she is a graduate. She applies for PGWP during that time, and while her study permit is still valid, she then has what is called maintained status to be able to work right away. And eventually her PGWP, her post-graduation work permit, is approved. So she no longer has student status in winter 2022, but because she applies for a work permit, she's then allowed to work. So let's dive into what that looks like from a work eligibility criteria or work eligibility for Supriya. So the smiley faces mean that she can work. So in those 2 first semesters, she can work 20 hours a week because she's a full-time student. During the summer break, because she's full-time before and after the break, she's allowed to work unlimited hours. So when we say you can work full-time, we mean that there's no limit to the work hours that you can work. But that requires you to be full-time before and after the break, and it must be a regularly scheduled break for your program. Okay, so she keeps going, and in winter 2021, she can still work 20 hours a week, as well as fall 2020, and then the next summer break, she can work full-time. In fall 2021, she's still a full-time student, so she can work. Then once she applies for her PGWP, the minute she submits the application, because she's applying while her study permit is still valid, she can start working full-time. Okay, so, and then of course, once the PGWP is approved, she can work full-time. And in her case, she will be eligible for a 3-year PGWP, which is the maximum you can get, because she has studied at least 2 years. So she actually studied more than 2 years because this is a 5-semester program. Okay, let's dive into our second scenario, which we don't want you to be in. And so with you attending this session and our next session, which is the academic integrity session, you will be well equipped to know what you need to do in order to be successful, such as Supriya, like Supriya. Johnny, on the other hand, you know, as you can see, he likes to party. He likes to do everything else but study, and he did not attend orientation. He doesn't know what academic integrity means. And so he starts off like Supriya with 7 courses in fall 2020. But then because of an academic integrity violation, he fails a course. Okay, so that's the red X there. He fails it. He's still a full-time student. That course that he fails, he has to repeat. And unfortunately, not all courses are offered every semester. So he's going to have to wait until fall 2021 to take that course again. So that green book there, that means he's going to be taking that course again in fall 2021. Because that course is a prerequisite for 2 courses in winter 2021, he's not able to progress to to his full course load next semester. So those 2 courses in winter 2021 are now not available for another year. So he has to take those a year later. He's still a full-time student with 5 out of 7 courses, so that's okay. And then during the summer break, he can work full-time because he still has full-time status. Okay, so but in fall 2021, he only has 4 courses now that he can progress to, because it just doesn't have the prerequisites that he needs to progress to his full course load. So he fails more courses. As you can see, we call this a snowball effect. So the snowballs get bigger and bigger as they fall down the hill, right? So he's failing more courses. That requires him to be a part-time student in fall 2022. So what that means for his summer break, he's not able to work in the summer break, and he's not going to be able to work now in the fall 2022. Now his study permit expires in fall 2022. He needs to extend it, and he's now a part-time student. Now he's starting to get stressed, lots of pressure on him. He calls, international student services. He's going to be now part-time for another semester. And he's stressed to the point where he's, sometimes needs medical help, maybe counseling help. We help him extend his study permit, but it is difficult when you're a part-time student and you cannot work to provide a proof of funds to IRCC, so that it makes a lot of things more difficult. In addition, you also now have to pay more tuition fees to repeat these courses. You may have, an extra couple of semesters that you now have to pay for. You also have living costs that you have to pay for because you have to extend your studies. He finally finishes his program in fall 2023. So as he's full-time again in that semester, he can work again. So let's look at the work eligibility for Johnny. The first 2 semesters is okay because he's still full-time. The next couple of semesters after his break, he's still okay. So he can work 20 hours a week the first 2 semesters, full-time during the break because he's a full-time student before and after the break. He's still full-time in winter 2022, but during that summer break, because he's now going to be a part-time student after the break, he cannot work. And he won't be able to work in the following 2 semesters because he's a part-time student. So he basically has over a year where he's not allowed to work. And let me tell you that can be very hard for international students. We see that quite often. It puts a lot of pressure on you. He's able to work in the final semester, but when he applies for PGWP, he may not be eligible at this point because he's had so many part-time semesters. So we want you to avoid Johnny's struggles. So avoid cheating, avoid any kind of academic integrity violations. Chris, I see your hand up.
It's okay. I just want to ask you guys who are here, because you are the voice and you are watching this presentation. There are people who are not watching, and you know what? Sometimes they do not watch it. They don't know about this. So if as you're meeting your peers, as you're meeting them at the college, even on May 2nd, or even after that, remind them that there is this presentation, that they should pay attention, because we see a lot of students in our offices at the end of the semester 1, sometimes semester 2, and they are in distress because they say they didn't know about this. So they need to know. And I would like you to be the voice for them to know, to be, to be their conscious, let's say, and remind them that there is this presentation here that they should be watching, that they should be paying attention. I know you guys are not going to be in trouble because you're watching it, but I know there are a lot of people who are not watching will be.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you in advance if you can do that.
Yeah, spread the word. This is really important to know. And there's ways to prevent this, right? So we want you to attend our next session that we have on academic integrity. It's so important to know what that is, because many countries don't have that concept of academic integrity. And so, for example, collaboration with other students may be seen differently in your country. Whereas in Canada, you can only collaborate with other students if it is allowed, if it is expressed specifically allowed in the assignment that you're completing, for example. We have tutoring services available. So if you feel that you're struggling, don't wait. Reach out to tutoring services for help. I have a daughter who was a student here, and she benefited from that quite a bit. It was really beneficial for her to go to tutoring services in some instances. Talk to your professors. It's a bit different maybe in your country, where a professor is not approachable at all. Our professors are very approachable. They want you to succeed. So if there's something preventing you from being successful, or if you're struggling with something, maybe an illness or something that's happening in your life, talk to them. Let them know what's happening, and don't talk to them well after the fact when you have that failing mark, because at that point they can't do anything. Okay, talk to them early. If you're struggling, reach out for help. Hold up your hand and ask clarification on the concept that you're learning. If there's something happening in your life, if you have financial difficulties, please contact us. You can email us at international@flemingcollege.ca, or you can come to our office or make an appointment, book an appointment with one of us. But don't leave it until the last minute when there's not really much that we can do to help you. So reach out early for help. As mentioned, you need to be progressing in your courses, and failed courses. So some students maybe decide to, I want to just work. I need that money. I need to work. Then they start failing classes. And what happens with that money that you now earned is it goes into repeating a semester maybe, or repeating some courses that all costs. Rebecca.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my quick spiel on how many hours is manageable to work. So when you are a full-time student, chances are you'll be in class for about 15 hours or so a week. When I was a student at Fleming College and throughout my studies and working with other students, I find that if you have 15 hours of classes, chances are you're going to have 15 hours of homework every single week. So 15 plus 15 is 30 hours a week, and that's already a full-time job. And that's why we call it being a full-time student, because it is full-time. So that's now 30 hours a week. And then the standard work week is 40 hours a week. So that really only leaves you 10 hours a week to work. So even though you're able to work up to 20 hours a week as a full-time student, I wouldn't really even recommend going up to 20 hours a week, just because your priority is to be a student, is to be successful at Fleming College. I also want you to be able to enjoy your time in Canada, have a weekend off and be able to relax and hang out and meet your new friends. And there's a balance of work and school and personal life, and I want you to be able to balance that. So yeah, just in quick summary, 15 hours of classwork, 15 hours of homework, that really only leaves you for 10 hours of work. And I find for myself and for law students, that was the best way to balance those three elements of your life while you are a student at Fleming College.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah. You can, as mentioned earlier, maybe see how it goes with your classes. Spend the first few weeks and see how much time you need to invest in your assignments, and then see what you can manage in terms of work. That will be the best way to go, definitely. Make sure you don't let your study permit expire. So again, that reminder, I think this is the third reminder that we're putting here to make sure that you reach out about 90 days, about 3 months before it expires, and we can provide you with the instructions to extend your study permit. Okay, and yeah, and comply with the conditions. Definitely never work more than you can. Keep progressing towards completing your studies. If you're not sure about something, you're always welcome to reach out either by email, or you can drop in or make an appointment to talk to one of us. Also, of course, you can always reach out to IRCC directly. It's a bit difficult to get through on their phone lines sometimes, but here's the phone number. If you're not sure about something, you can also call them. How to book an appointment, there's a link here that maybe we can put in the chat box in a minute. So if you want to book an appointment to talk about immigration questions that you may have, that is the link to choose. We have a lot of information on our ISS website, so in the International Student Services website, and that link is there as well. So there's actually a section about immigration, and I would invite you to check that out. You can email us, and we also send out weekly updates. So if there's like a major change in regards to immigration rules, we will send out a weekly email update to your Fleming email. Never ignore that email. Okay, it's really important to be updated on those things. But if you hear something that you're not sure about, you can also email us and clarify. Okay, that's the end of the kind of official part of the presentation. I know it was pretty long, but hopefully that clarified things for you in terms of immigration. Let's dive right into the questions now.
Stefania, just in case anyone has to leave, I just want to remind that there is the academic integrity session right after this one. Is starting at 9:45. And that's a very important session that will talk about how students get in trouble, and that may affect your working abilities, your PGWP eligibility. Wow, that was difficult. But anyways, make sure that you attend the next session. And if you're not attending because of any reasons, make sure that you watch the recordings. The recordings will be on the ISS page. Rebecca has just put a link there. So go to that page, and there is a session saying orientation recordings, and they will be there. Okay, they're not today. We don't have them yet, but they will be there. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. So let's dive into the question. So somebody's saying that the expiry date of the study permit is less than the course duration. Can you apply for the extension from the college? So you can apply. You'll have to apply online, and I would recommend that you do that yourself from your IRCC account. If you wish, you can hire a recruitment. Sorry, not recruitment. An immigration consultant or maybe a lawyer to do that for you. If you have somebody that you trust, you can do that. But it is important to have somebody that has experience with study permits and anything that's related to study permits. But there is a lot of information, including a video tutorial on our website. And I think we'll put the link here if we haven't yet. And you can reach out for help too. So if you have questions, even after watching the video tutorial and reading the content of our page, you can reach out for help as well if you have questions about certain things in the application.
Yeah, just to quickly clarify, because I've seen a few students make this mistake, we'll say. So a study permit application and study permit extensions and co-op work permit applications are submitted to the Government of Canada, not to Fleming College. It's done online through your GC Key portal, and Fleming College, depending on the application, there's usually a document from Fleming College that you need to include, whether that's your offer letter for a study permit, a letter of support for your study permit extension, or for your co-op work permit, but you're not submitting it to Fleming College. And like Stefania was saying, as Aritzia and an immigration consultant working for Fleming College, we cannot touch your application, but we can help you. So please don't hesitate to come, book a meeting with us. We can help you navigate how to submit the application, and we can answer questions that you might have about filling out the application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really important to do it before your documents expire. So yes. Sooner is better than later. Definitely not after the expiry date, because if you let your study permit expire without applying for an extension before the expiry date, then you have to stop studying. You're not allowed to study without a valid study permit or without having applied for the extension before your study permit expired. Can we extend our visa at the airport? No, that cannot be done at the airport. Any extension applications, whether it is for your visa or your study permit has to be done online. Do we have to always have our study permit and work permit with us, like when you're in school, or is the one card sufficient? Yes, no. I think everybody is saying no here. Don't carry that with us unless you really need it. For example, maybe if you go open a bank account, maybe you may need that sometimes. Or if you go to get your SIN number or apply for your SIN number, you may need it. Other than that, you don't need it, and we would recommend that you keep it in a safe spot somewhere. Take a picture of it in case it does get lost, but you can always carry a picture of it with you, unless it is explicitly asked that you bring an original study permit. Otherwise, leave it at home. Yeah. I applied for an extension of study permit and I've not gotten feedback from IRCC. That can take a little while. So right now, I think processing times are around just over 2 months for study permit extensions, and they can change too. Sometimes they jump up to 6 months, so you may not hear from IRCC for a while. If it's been a while, if those processing times that are posted on the IRCC website have been exceeded, you can reach out to IRCC via a web form. There's a web form that you can submit to IRCC to inquire about the status, but we don't recommend doing that if those processing times have not been exceeded.
There was another question like lower on in the chat asking about processing times for the postgraduate work permit application. So I just put the link in the chat for the check processing times. This is how we get our information about how long a application will take to have a decision be made. So feel free to bookmark that link, and then you can check the processing times for various applications. I find it fun just to kind of like click on it to see what's going on with other applications. But yeah, just I would recommend bookmarking it for future reference.
Yeah, that's a good point. And sometimes they can vary too.
Yeah.
Like so those processing times will not be exact. It may be a lot quicker, it may be a lot longer. It depends on your application. It depends on the officer that's reviewing it and how busy they are. Like, so it depends on a lot of different things.
And on the topic of the study permit, for you guys who are coming on campus on May 2nd for the networking day, you don't need to bring your study permit either, but take a picture and bring the picture, because we're going to ask you to take a look at certain things, and we may even take a look at your picture of your document to see if everything is correct. So that's a chance that you have to check your documentation.
The travel visa has a different date from our study permit expiry date. Would you need to apply for an extension even though the study permit is still valid? So the TRV, so the temporary resident visa, so the sticker in your passport, sometimes it could be a little bit different in terms of the validity as your study permit. Just so you know, that is a travel document. So if you're not going to be traveling, technically it doesn't need to be kept updated. It's probably a good idea to keep it updated because you may need to leave Canada in an emergency situation maybe, and then if you find yourself outside of Canada without a valid TRV, you're not going to be able to come back into Canada. Mm-hmm. So you may want to keep that updated at all times, just for those reasons, but it is not a document that gives you status here in Canada. So the study permit is that document. So that study permit has to be valid for the entire duration that you are here and that you are studying.
And although we have many attractions in Canada, such as Canada Wonderland, some students do venture to the United States, right? And they want to go to Disney, and you're going to need that sticker to return to Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, and you may also want to check out the
passport validity.
The passport validity, the study permit, of course, but also the entry requirements for the country that you're traveling to, because they may be different, you know, than what Canada expects from you. So check that. You may need a visa to go into the US, and sometimes those visas can take a while to get. So plan accordingly.
The next question was, and I did answer it quickly in the chat, but it was, does this mean that you can work more than 20 hours a week if you're working on campus? The answer is yes. I would recommend looking at that working on campus link though, to see the requirements for being able to work on campus, as well as the link below, just working off campus. That's a really good link. I reference it every single week with students. So another great link to bookmark so you can reference moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
The recording for yesterday's session will be available. Yes, we will make that available to you.
Mm-hmm. Is a co-op work permit different from work permit given upon arrival at the airport? So check the document that you received, the documents that you received at the airport. The co-op work permit usually will list Fleming as your employer, if it was issued for Fleming, obviously, and there will be remarks at the bottom of the co-op work permit to identify it as a co-op work permit. So it will say that this work permit is only for hours that are an essential component of your program. If you're not sure about the documents, like Chris said, come and see us. We will be available to look at your documents to see if they're okay for you to study and for you to go on placement. Any clarity regarding co-op work permit and permission to work off or on campus? So the main difference here is the co-op work permit is only for the hours that you have to do for placement or for internship or for the co-op, the mandatory co-op that you have as part of your program. That is the only thing that you can do with that co-op work permit. The off and on campus work is through your study permit. So your study permit will say if you can work on or off campus, and if those remarks are there and your study permit is valid, you are allowed to work on or off campus, meaning 20 hours a week during your semester. So if you want a part-time job to earn some money, for example, you can do that through your study permit. So it's your study permit that may allow you to work on or off campus.
And that's on top of your, on top of on-campus work, right? Because students can work on campus and also work off campus. And on campus is unlimited, although you shouldn't be working too many hours, right? You should concentrate on your studies.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, please don't try to work 40 hours a week while being a full-time student. I promise you it will not work. It's just, you have to focus on your studies. Homework in certain weeks will take a lot longer than you think. So yeah, even though it might be unlimited hours, you can work on campus and off campus. And I mean, a paycheck while you're a student is always greatly appreciated. And valuable. I understand how valuable that is, but yeah, 40 hours a week is just, it's way too much. It's too much.
And yesterday was interesting, and I beg you to watch the recording for the student panel. They really talk about this. They talk about studying, the hours for studying and how to manage your time, and specifically the working piece. So please watch that recording. I will be putting it today, and make sure that if you didn't attend, that you would watch the recording.
There's a good question here. Do we have to apply for another co-op work permit when going into other healthcare programs? So for healthcare programs, or if you have a program that involves children or older people, elderly people, any kind of vulnerable populations, you have to have a co-op work permit that allows you to work in those fields. So if there is a restriction that says not authorized to work in health services or primary, secondary school settings, then you're not allowed to work in those settings. So then you would have to apply for a new co-op work permit and ask for those restrictions to be removed. Usually that has something to do with your immigration medical exam. If there wasn't one on file, a valid one on file at the time of your documents being issued, then that's usually the reason why those restrictions are on there. If you're not sure about that, please come and see us. Don't just guess or don't shrug it off, or if you're not sure, please come see us. We would rather help you right away to get this changed or get this fixed than for you to be at the NARS deadline and discover that you now have this restriction. Always read your documents. Don't blindly just assume that they're okay.
Mhm. You always give such good advice, Stefania.
Oh, just lots of experience with students who have problems, and it just creates so much stress. So we don't want you to be in that situation.
Yeah, we are very careful.
I have an immunization card from India, so I want to verify that card. Where should I do that? I believe you can go to health services if you're asking about the non-academic requirements for your program. You can have that, I believe, checked with health services. So come on campus, and I think you can make an appointment with them to have that checked and see if you need other immunizations.
And on the immunization topic, we'll have NARS on campus on May 2nd. So if you have any doubt about your NARS, non-academic requirements, they're going to have a table in the main foyer, so you can stop by.
The next question from Judy, I answered. So if the study permit is expired after 3 months, but she already applied for a PGWP, will she still have maintained status and be able to work in Canada? So this was during your presentation, Stefania, and I quickly answered in the chat, yes, that's correct. As long as she applies for a postgraduate work permit before the study permit expires. So yeah, you want to apply for that postgraduate work permit as soon as possible. And what often happens is that your postgraduate work permit application is still processing, and then your study permit expires during that time. So you go into what's called maintained status. It used to be called implied status. And what that means is that you have maintained your status. You did your part to try to keep your status valid. So yes, you would be able to work during that time. And once you submit your postgraduate work permit application, you can start working full time. So it's one of those documents. It might be the only immigration document where you can start using it before you get it. So while your PGWP is processing, you can start working full time. It's from the day that you click submit.
And also a note to add to this is that if you have a longer study permit, which is also possible, sometimes it happens that you may finish your course earlier, or maybe you've changed your course and it's now a shorter program and you're finishing your studies earlier. Just a note that your study permit actually expires 3 months after you are not notified that you're no longer a student. So after you're notified that you've met the requirements to graduate with the completion letter, we call that the completion letter. 3 months after that, your study permit expires if you don't continue your studies after that. Okay, so that's really important to know for the timing of your PGWP application. Always best to apply as soon as possible, as Rebecca said, though. The minute you have the requirements or the documents that you need, apply for your PGWP. And the PGWP is only available to you once in a lifetime. So also decide when is the best time for you to apply. If you think you want to study another program after the first program, you may want to wait and apply after you finish the second program.
Mm-hmm.
to maximize the eligibility or the length of your PGWP. So you need to study 2 years, a minimum of 2 years, in order to get a 3-year PGWP, which is the longest you can get. And so you can either do a 2-year program or 2 1-year programs in order to meet that eligibility criteria. Somebody's saying that they have applied for a study permit from within Canada and haven't received it yet. If you don't have a study permit, you're not going to be able to begin your studies. So it's really important that you get that study permit before you begin your studies. And if you don't get it by the time that you're supposed to start your semester or your program, you may need to defer. So you may need to reach out to the registrar's office to do that.
We only have 3 minutes left, but I encourage everyone, if you have questions in your own campus, come and ask us. We are at C2100 over here at Sutherland, and at Frost. It is, Rebecca, remind me the number of the room, please.
Yeah, it's 201H. So if you walk into the registrar's office, I'm in the back right-hand corner, or if you're walking down the hallway, I have a separate door as well to enter. So room 201H.
And we are across from the registrar's office. Everything has to do with the registrar's office, right? So registrar's office is a good point of reference. Okay, and then you can also email international@flemingcollege.ca. We won't be able to answer all your questions during the session, but we are here to support you, as we mentioned before. And for any questions you have, you can come in person or you can email us. Or you can even book an appointment with one of the advisors, as Stefania mentioned at the beginning of the session. And remember to tell your friends about this, right? It is important that you tell them. If you didn't attend the virtual, it is important for you to watch at least the recordings, please, and thank you. I thank you for being our ambassadors in this matter. And spreading the news. It's very important. We don't want to see anybody in trouble. We just want to help you, but we want to help you while we can. When it's too late, we cannot do much, right? Then it's the immigration lawyer who's going to come into place, and it will cost a lot of money. So please tell your friends or the friends you make to come see us or to watch the recordings, to take control of their, of their destiny, their documentation. Read it carefully and be on top of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just one little comment. I see a question here about the cooperative permit and study permit. They are 2 different documents. They're 2 separate documents that you will get. So the cooperative permit is not in the study permit. You will get a study permit, and if you also have a mandatory placement and you've applied for the cooperative permit, you will get a separate document that just says work permit and identifies it as a cooperative permit, just so it's clear. But yeah, any other questions, please reach out to us. Come see us May 3rd during program orientation. We will be out in the main foyer, and you can come see us with your documents. We can have a look at them if you have any questions.
That's right. Well, thank you, everybody. Remember, we have another session, academic integrity, very, very important too. So if you want to meet us, and it's at 9:45. So go to that link, and I'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I love my team.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.